So I have it on very good authority because I've been chatting with a lot of you via email that many of you are cooking for 1 or 2 people. And that's just something that I've never really focused on here on YouTube, but I think it's a great idea because there's so many of you out there. And in fact, in just about 4 years, once both my kids are out of the house, I'll be joining you in the cooking for 1 or 2 also. So the video that I've got for you today is one grocery list from Aldi. I spent about $50 and this is going to feed 2 people a week of dinners. This is not gonna be sad, boring budget food. We're gonna make some peanut chicken wraps. I'm also making some burger bowls with corn on the cob. Also, I think my favorite recipe from this video is the lemon ricotta pasta with chicken. So you have to stay tuned for that and promise me that you'll make it. And then lastly, a really good recipe for some Mediterranean style veggie hummus wraps. I found this olive tapenade hummus at Aldi that's absolutely delicious. If you guys can get your hands on it, definitely try it. Side note, I've also gotten feedback that you guys want to see more vegetarian recipes. So that's kind of why I included that one in there, but I'll be doing more of that as well. So this video is the first in my new Table for 2 series. I'm gonna take you with me to Aldi. We're gonna shop for the groceries. I'll show you what I got for around $50, and then we will cook the meals. Also, I'll have all of the recipes linked in the description box below, along with the grocery list, so you can grab those if you want to. All right, let's go to the store. Here we are at Aldi. Let's go inside and see what all we can get for 50 bucks. I had cherry tomatoes on my list, but these Roma tomatoes are cheaper, so I think we're gonna go with that. Their mixed greens are $2.59 here. I feel like that's a really good price, especially for organic if you care about that kind of thing. And then I need some coleslaw mix, $1.89. One of the things I had planned into the menu was this sweet corn, $2.39. I also need to get some wraps. They obviously have flavored like spinach, but I want them to be more versatile, so I'm gonna go ahead and get just the regular like burrito size flour tortillas and use those as wraps. I'm also gonna grab these dill pickle chips for the burger bowls. And then I need feta. I typically like to buy the chunk of feta, but it's a little bit pricier, so I'll just get the crumbled. And then we need some hummus and some tzatziki. I don't want spinach artichoke, I want cucumber dill. They have this flavor of hummus. It's olive tapenade, which I think actually sounds pretty good, so we're gonna try that. I'm also gonna grab some shredded Parmesan cheese. So I was gonna get linguine for the lemon ricotta pasta, but I'm actually thinking if I go with something like rigatoni, that will be a little bit more versatile. One thing that sometimes kind of like frustrates me about Aldi is that the prices online are not always accurate, and sometimes they show things in their ad that they don't have available. Like they advertised that they had ground beef patties for $5.99, but they don't have them here in the store, so I'm just gonna get a pound of ground beef. I actually do not prefer grass-fed ground beef, but it's the cheapest, so that's what we're gonna get. This is a new to me product that I saw advertised. They're these chicken bites. It's basically just diced chicken breast, and you get a pound for $3.99, so we're gonna try these. All right, we got everything. We're gonna go check out and see how much it is. All right, not bad. A couple bucks over, $51.97. Here's a look at everything that I got from Aldi for just over $50. Here's a good reason to shop at Aldi. So I know that for sure Hy-Vee this week was advertising this exact same package of corn for $5. And I can't remember the exact price at Aldi, but I'll have them on the screen right here. But Hy-Vee certainly inflates their prices compared to what you can get at Aldi. I got a bag of coleslaw. That's going to be for the peanut chicken wraps. Some mixed greens. We're actually going to use this in several different recipes. Some bell peppers. If Aldi sold bell peppers by just, single bell peppers, I would have just gotten one. However, I will say that's, I think, a limitation of shopping at Aldi is that a lot of times you can't get single items of produce, but at any rate, if you're buying the comparable amount, they're probably going to be cheaper than Walmart or anywhere else. I got some feta cheese, and this is going to be for the hummus veggie wraps. Some cilantro, green onions. This actually, I'm gonna have to start buying my green onions at Aldi because I've been noticing I typically order my groceries from Walmart, and the packages of, or the bunches of green onions have been getting smaller and smaller, and this is actually a good amount. I got a seedless cucumber, some baby carrots. I also got a bag of lemons. Again, I just need a couple, but couldn't get any single lemons there at Aldi. Some Roma tomatoes, some of this tzatziki dip, the olive hummus, some Parmesan cheese, and then we obviously won't use all of these for the recipes, but it's never a bad idea to have pickles on hand. So these are a great price compared to some of the brand names that you'll find at Walmart. I got some ricotta cheese. This is gonna be for the lemon ricotta pasta. Some rigatoni. I do like Aldi's pasta. This is kind of the more expensive brand than their base level pasta, but I think the extra $1 is worth it in terms of quality. I got some thin sliced chicken breast. I don't know if this is new at my Aldi, but I really enjoyed picking this up the last couple times that I've been there. It's not a bad price per pound, $4.79, and these are cut extremely thin. So one of the things that you can use these for is like if you want to make chicken cutlets, they cook super quickly and you don't have to spend time slicing them. So I think that's a great buy if you can find that at your Aldi. Again, I mentioned this in the store, but these are a new to me item, $3.99 for a pound of marinated chicken. So hopefully that's good. And then, like I mentioned, I got a pound of ground beef. Like I said, I don't prefer grass-fed ground beef, but this is the best quality, kind of cheapest pound of ground beef that they have at my Aldi. And then of course we got the burrito-sized flour tortillas for the wraps. So the first thing I do anytime I get home from the grocery store is start prepping my produce. And probably one of the reasons why you cannot get dinner on the table every night is not because you're lazy or really even unmotivated. It's because of decision fatigue, right? So if you think about everything that you have to do during the day, go to work, sit in meetings, whatever you do all day, every day, you have already made like hundreds of decisions by the time it's time to make dinner. And so any type of friction that you can remove from preparing food, the more successful that you're going to be with making dinner. And so part of that is really processing your produce and storing it in a way that will make it last the longest. And this kind of goes back to the concept or the idea of ingredient prep. You've probably heard people say that, like, don't meal prep, ingredient prep. And while I do agree with that concept, I actually like to map out my meals first and then prep the components of those meals, because some people do have, you know, an aversion, I guess you would say, to eating leftovers. I personally don't. I love leftovers. I grew up eating leftovers. I eat them all the time. But also the issue with that is that sometimes leftovers are not, they're just not as like appealing, right? So especially after you have a long day and you're exhausted, you're like, that doesn't really sound good. But if you can remove the friction of at least like washing and chopping some of the veggies and meat and whatever else, that works really well. So I actually not just started. I've been writing on Substack for a while, but I just published my first weekly meal plan over there. And that's one of the things that I give everyone with a paid subscription every week. You're making me self-conscious.
Why? I'm just like, look at you with a smile because I'm like, oh, there's my lovely wife. I'm so proud of her. And you're like, oh, I'm so confident in you.
I don't normally, actually.
I'm not even paying attention.
Good.
I'm on my phone and I'm watching baseball.
Okay, keep it that way. So this is what you get every week with a paid subscription, and I'm actually doing the first 2 weeks free for everybody so you can get kind of like a taste of what it's like. But basically it's a menu where you can feed your family of 5 dinners a week for under $100. So you get the menu, and then you also get a grocery list broken out by section of the store, and then also all of the pantry items that you'll need. And then my favorite part, which is why I wanted to bring this up, is the weekly prep sheet. So this is specifically designed so that you can prep to make your dinners quicker and easier during the week, and it takes 45 minutes. If you're doing it on a Sunday order your groceries, follow the prep sheet, then you can do the things ahead of time that you can do, right? So like if you are making glazed salmon, make the sauce for the salmon, dice the chicken up, cut the veggies, you know, crush your garlic, all that kind of stuff that you can do now when you have the energy to like save time and decision fatigue during the week. So these are what like the recipes look like. So for this week, it was Taco Bell copycat tacos, weeknight chicken and dumplings, bourbon chicken, chili, and glazed salmon. So if you guys are interested, I'll leave the link in the description box below. And like I said, the first 2 weeks of the meal plan are free. So this is my favorite kitchen tool ever. It's my OXO salad spinner. Those of you that have been watching me for a long time know that I use this every week, probably multiple times a week, to prep my veggies and spin lettuce dry and things like that. I actually have 3 of these. I have, this one is a plastic one. They also have one that has a glass outer bowl. And then I have a mini one as well that's made for like herbs or smaller quantities like blueberries or something like that. But the other thing that I'm gonna get better about is linking everything in the description box. I have been out of the practice of that, and it's just easier than you guys commenting and asking me for links for me to put them in the description box. So if there's anything that you need, you can just grab it there. I'm gonna let these veggies sit. One thing I notice especially about like green onions is that a lot of times when you get them, like actually this one is probably unsalvageable, but a lot of times when you get them, they're a little bit wilty. And if you just soak them in cold water for like 5 to 10 minutes, it will really kind of bring some life back into them. This is the smaller salad spinner I was talking about. While we're at it, I'm gonna go ahead and wash the cilantro as well. I can't tell you how many times I watch food videos on the internet and people aren't washing their veggies, or just like taking a head of lettuce and chopping it up and not washing it. And I just shake my head and go about my day. But cilantro especially is super, super dirty. Like you'll notice after you soak this for 10 minutes that there's like dirt and sediment in the bottom of your bowl. So make sure you wash your produce, guys. I do want to spin the green onions dry because those will hold water kind of in the middle of them. So to store the cilantro, what I like to do, and this is the same with the green onions also, I just lay out some paper towel and then I will spread out, the same for parsley too, kind of spread it out like this. Now I don't wrap, I mean I have before. I don't, like what I will do is like roll this up, put it in a Ziploc bag and put it in the fridge. I don't do that right away if I have time, because this is still kind of wet. And so if you let it sit here, you know, for like 20 or 30 minutes and kind of air dry a little bit, it'll last longer in the fridge. And then same thing with the green onions. I didn't mention this before, but what I do, you can see how I like chopped both ends off, and then I strategically kind of cut them in half so I can separate when I'm making different recipes, the whites from the greens. Because like, for example, if I'm making fried rice, I would want to use the white parts to saute with the fried rice and then the green parts to garnish. So I'll just let these dry for a little bit before I stick them in the fridge. Okay, so maybe weird, but I also decided to wash the baby carrots because, you know, sometimes you get them home from the store and there's like this weird liquid in the bag with them. And I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna wash those. So what I am going to do for this kind of week of meals is I'm gonna go ahead and just chop the peppers into strips. These store pretty well in the fridge. I just put them in a container with a paper towel in the bottom to drain any of the water that comes off. And they usually stay pretty good for like, I don't know, 5 to 6 days. And obviously you can do, if you have peppers prepped in your fridge, there's so many things you can do with them. If you decide you want to make fajitas, you can do that. You can dice them up, add them to eggs or an omelet, or just eat them with hummus, you know, put them in salads, whatever. I don't even know. Actually, I might have to get a bigger container. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to put together the Mediterranean veggie hummus wraps. So I've got my wraps, crumbled feta, the olive tapenade hummus, the tzatziki sauce. I'm going to use a little bit of lemon juice, salt, pepper, olive oil to kind of dress the mixed greens with. A cucumber, tomato, a little bit of green onion, and some peppers. Okay, I'm first going to put down some hummus. I'll do the greens next so we can kind of smash those down a little bit. And then I'll just put a little bit of lemon juice and some olive oil. My favorite brand of olive oil, not for cooking, but for eating, is this Costa Rica brand. It's very, very good olive oil. It's pricey, but I think if you want quality, it's worth it. Salt and pepper. Okay, and then we'll just put some peppers, tomatoes. I'm gonna put a little bit of salt on the tomatoes. And then I tried to slice the cucumbers pretty thin. And then I'm just gonna slice up some green onion. You can use red onion too. I didn't have enough in the budget to get red onion, but totally okay if you have that too. Okay, and then what we'll do is we'll drizzle this tzatziki over the top, and then some of the feta. This might be a little full, we'll see. Okay, moment of truth. Ooh, that looks really good, doesn't it? Yeah. Okay, next we're gonna make the burger bowls, and this is a lesson for Kira because she wants to know how you make burgers in the winter. It's not the winter, but that is on the stove, which we're gonna do today. So what I like to do is I portion out my hamburger and roll it into balls, and then I like to flatten the burgers in between wax paper because then you can get them like an even thickness. It's the easiest way to do it. Watch and learn, Kira. Kira doesn't even like burgers. And then you just put the top piece over, flatten them to whatever thickness you want. That's it, super easy. So I always season my burgers with Lowry's seasoning salt. I think that's the best seasoning for burgers. I also use it for like fried potatoes too. So I'm just gonna sprinkle that on one side, and then we'll put these on a plate and season the other side. I'm gonna put together the sauce for the burger bowls. So we need about a quarter cup of mayo. And then I just have some of those pickles that I diced up here. So I'll add those. Tablespoon each of ketchup and mustard. I'm totally just eyeballing this. And then a tablespoon of the pickle juice, quarter teaspoon garlic powder, quarter teaspoon onion powder, half a teaspoon of paprika, and then we'll whisk it up and taste it. I feel like it needs some sugar. It's too tart. Okay, this is probably, I don't know, a teaspoon and a half of sugar. Okay, that's better, but it needs to sit in the fridge for a little bit. I love these little restaurant deli containers. I use them all the time, every week, for many, many things. So I'll link them down below. The good thing about them I like is that they're not disposable. Obviously you can reuse them. They are dishwasher safe, but then if you do lose them, like obviously it's not a big deal, or if they accidentally get thrown away. I'm just gonna heat up just a little bit of, I'll do medium high, just a little bit of olive oil on the bottom. I've let these burgers kind of just sit here with the seasoning for a little bit. I like to do that because then the seasoning can kind of get absorbed a little bit into the meat and it won't all come off when you put it in the pan. All right, I'm gonna give these a flip. And then when they're about done on the other side, I'll put some cheese on them and then just lay some foil over the top so the cheese melts. Okay, I just turned the heat off and I'm just gonna let them rest in there while the cheese melts. Okay, we're gonna build our burger bowl, which Adam says is a burger salad. So I'm gonna start with some greens. You can use any type of lettuce or greens that you have on hand. I cut the burger into pieces because I think it'll just be easier to eat that way. I'm gonna add some tomatoes and some pickles and our sauce. I'm gonna slice up some green onion to put on there. All right, and here's our finished bowl. Easy meal for two. And you can actually eat this 4 times, right? Because we made 4 burgers, so it'll serve 2 for 2 meals. Next up, we are making our lemon ricotta pasta for 2. So I've got a big pan or pot of boiling salted water here. We're just gonna use half of this 16-ounce bag, so half a pound of pasta. If you wanna do leftovers, obviously you could make more, or if you're cooking for more than 2 people, obviously double this. We're gonna set the timer to 12 minutes. While that's cooking, I'm gonna cook the chicken. Now here's a story about this pre-packaged, pre-marinated chicken that I got from Aldi. I opened the package and I don't know, I felt like the chicken smelled a little bit off, and I am not one to take chances with the chicken. So what I did was I just pulled some chicken breast out of my freezer and thawed them out earlier today. And all I did was I seasoned these with olive oil, salt, pepper, garlic powder, lemon juice, lemon zest. And then I also used some of this basil. This is what we're gonna also use some of this in the pasta. A lot of times during the summer, you can get fresh basil at Aldi. I have actually been ordering this from Walmart because a lot of times when I try to order fresh basil from Walmart, it's sold out, or I get it and it's like slimy and not good. but this is lightly dried basil. I've never tried this before, this container, and I actually really like it. It's much more flavorful than like a traditional dried basil, but you keep it in your fridge and it works great. So I just heated up some olive oil in the bottom of this pan, wait for that to heat up a little bit. I'll just cook the chicken breasts for about 4 minutes. These are pretty thin ones, so about 4 minutes on each side, and let them rest while the pasta finishes cooking. In this bowl, I've got a heaping cup of ricotta cheese. I'm using whole milk ricotta because that's what I prefer. I prefer the flavor of it. And then the zest of 1 lemon. I'm also gonna add the juice of half the lemon. If I feel like it needs more later when I taste it, I can always add more. And then I'm gonna add about, I don't know, 2.5 ounces of Parmesan cheese, and then some basil. I'm actually just thinking now that I didn't have basil on the shopping list, so if you don't want to spring for it, just use whatever dried basil you have in your cabinet, spice cabinet. Okay, I'm gonna mix this up. I'm gonna add a pinch of salt. Parmesan is obviously very salty in and of itself, so I would hold back on a little bit of the salt, and then you can always add more later. And then some pepper, and then we will basically add this to the drained hot pasta along with some of the starchy cooking water from the pasta, and then that will kind of help the whole thing come together. I'm gonna give these chicken breasts a flip. I recently, not too long ago, got these kitchen tweezers. I really, really like them. They're super versatile. I'll link them down below. Okay, and then after I flip the chicken breast, I just like to put some foil on top. That way it can kind of make sure that the chicken cooks through. Cook that for 3 to 4 more minutes and shut off the heat. Pasta's almost done. I'm just gonna dip in here and get about a cup of the pasta water. Okay, I've got a strainer in the sink, so I'm gonna go ahead and strain this. I'm gonna go ahead and put the ricotta into the bottom of the hot pot, and then I can pour the pasta over it. Dump the pasta back in, a little bit of that pasta water. Then you just gotta kind of stir this until everything melts together. It'll take a little bit for that Parmesan cheese in there to melt also. This smells good. If you're a lemon lover, like I am, you're gonna wanna make this. Okay, so if I had to guess, I'd say I used, I don't know, a little less than half a cup of the pasta water, but you do wanna give this a taste at this point. Okay, I actually think it needs a little bit more salt and pepper. And then I am gonna go ahead and add the other part of the lemon, the other half of the lemon. I also think it could do with a little bit more basil flavor, so we'll add some of that. Okay, let's taste it. Okay, that's so good. 10 out of 10. I'm going to let this sit. Anytime I make a pasta dish that's like in sauce, I do like to let it sit for just a couple minutes, you know, just so I can make sure that the pasta absorbs that sauce. And then we're gonna slice up one of the chicken breasts. All right, so here is our finished dish. We got the grilled chicken on top, that creamy lemony sauce with the pasta, basil, garnished with a lemon. Definitely make this one. It's delicious. Okay, so I'm making these peanut chicken wraps, and I need to make the peanut sauce for like the coleslaw mixture that's gonna go inside the wraps. So in this bowl, I already measured and put everything in here. It's got honey, a 1/4 cup of vegetable oil, some peanut butter, rice vinegar, soy sauce, sesame oil, salt and pepper, crushed red pepper flake, grated ginger and garlic. And then I also added the juice of a lime. So I'm just gonna whisk, it'll take a little bit to come together because the peanut butter and the honey is pretty sticky. But once I get this whisked together, I'll taste it and see if it needs any different seasoning. Okay, so the only thing that I had to add was a couple tablespoons of hot water. Sometimes you have to do that to thin your peanut sauce out a little bit, but other than that, flavor was great. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this in a container and set it aside. So this recipe that I am making is for peanut chicken wraps, and I'm making a little bit of marinade for the chicken breast. So I've got my chicken over here. In this bowl, I have some garlic, some lime juice, sriracha, fish sauce, rice vinegar, soy sauce, sesame oil, brown sugar, and some white pepper. So I'm just gonna whisk this together, and then I actually don't have time really to marinate the chicken for a super long time, but it's cut pretty thin. So I think we'll just stick it in a Ziploc bag and maybe throw it in the fridge for like 20 or 30 minutes. I mean, this has like a lot of flavorful ingredients in it, so I'm not too concerned. Got our chicken with our marinade. I'm just gonna stick this in the fridge for a little bit. While the chicken is marinating, I'm gonna assemble some of the ingredients for the wraps. So, ooh, this is harder grating baby carrots than I thought it was gonna be. Okay, anyway, I'm gonna very clumsily grate up some of these baby carrots. And then I'm gonna chop up some green onion and some cilantro. Then I'm gonna grab that coleslaw mix or cabbage mix out of the fridge. Okay, so we get some thinly sliced green onions. Throw that in with the carrots. By the way, this is an OXO. I think it's called a grate and chop or something like that. I really like it because it has different blades. So there's like a mandolin blade and a julienne blade and then a smaller grater. And it just works great. I love it. Just like a handful of cilantro. I'm gonna go ahead and use the stems also. I'm gonna add to this bowl a couple handfuls of coleslaw mix. And then I'm gonna add my shredded carrots and green onions. And then probably like, I don't know, heaping quarter cup, maybe a little bit more of this peanut sauce. This is the same kind of peanut sauce that I use when I make like spring rolls too. Okay, so we'll just mix this up and then we just have to cook the chicken and let it cool a little bit and assemble the wraps. Easy. I'm gonna use a nonstick skillet because my other ones are dirty. The only thing about using a nonstick skillet when you're cooking chicken breast is I feel like you can't really get good color on it. Like it kind of steams it a little bit rather than sears it, but that's fine. Obviously we're gonna cut this up and stick it in a wrap anyway. All right, let's put this wrap together. So we're gonna add half the slaw, our chicken, which I tasted and the flavor is really good. So highly recommend that marinade. And then we'll just add some peppers, red and yellow. And we'll wrap this up. I was thinking about how you could meal prep these. I don't think I would like prep the wraps ahead of time because I feel like that cabbage mixture would get soggy in there. It would like make the tortilla soggy. But I think you could easily prep all the components and then just like throw them together at the last minute when you want to eat. Okay, let's cut this in half. Ooh, yum. This is like the perfect summer dinner too. You could cook the chicken on the grill even, then you wouldn't have to heat up your kitchen. All right, here's our peanut chicken wraps. These turned out so good. I found some chips in the pantry, so I put those on the side, and then the corn is just finishing right now on the stove, the corn on the cob. So I had half of it with the burger bowls and having the other half with this. Yum. Okay, so make sure you give this video a thumbs up, and then if you give it a thumbs up, let me know if the thumbs up button switches into a knife and fork, because I've noticed that sometimes it does that on cooking videos. But I also just made another video on how to feed a family of 4 5 dinners a week for only $85. I also think a lot of those recipes could be cut in half for 2 people as well. So if you want to watch that, you can click on this video right here.